My name is Eric van Sommeren. I represent Cisco. I'm from, for those of you that I haven't spoken to already earlier today, I'm from our Amsterdam office, from our contact center practice across the region. Don't spend too much time there. Lots of time on the road, visiting events such as this, work with our partners and customers. So really excited to be here. And thank you for joining me here after this great lunch break. I have got the challenge of keeping you awake after digesting that lunch. So what I'd like to do is take you through how Cisco sees and has seen the market of customer interaction evolve globally. We've already seen some presentations earlier today looking at market trends, use of multiple channels, use of social, use of in and outbound, etc., across customer contact centers across the region. What I'd actually like to do is take that and translate that into innovation from a technological perspective. So clearly taking a global stance, but zooming more into the region as we go along, and going through what we believe are the three waves of innovation in customer interaction that we have seen over the last couple of decades. So from there, look at the opportunity of what we believe is really customer collaboration, which basically means tearing down the walls around your contact center, not necessarily the physical ones, but the virtual ones restraining you and your operations today in securing customer satisfaction, which often requires engagement beyond the traditional front office contact center. So really zooming into a little bit of what Cisco claims to be the next generation customer interaction, which what we call customer collaboration, and how it spans not just different parts of the organization, but also how new technology innovation can help you differentiate your service levels and at the same time still have a great efficiency gains as we go along. So the last part of this session will be looking at a couple of customers that have actually gone through this exercise across the region. So I'll try to make up for a little bit of the time, but I'm not promising anything just yet. So looking at what we call waves of innovation in customer care over the decades, I think we go back until around the 80s or something when the concept of the automatic call distributor, the ACD, was invented. So everything was really cost orientated back in the 80s when I still had my hair. So this was quite a while ago, and I think when we did a quick poll this morning, we noted that quite a few people in the room, at least this morning, were already in the industry by then. So it's great to see that loyalty to this piece of the industry. So wave one really focused on cost efficiency optimization. We'll zoom into that in a little bit, but as that wave continued, even to today, trying to optimize cost efficiency gains throughout the customer care operation, we see around the 90s, we see a rise of more customer relationship focused. So much more about developing a relationship with the customer. So this is the era of CRM and more integrations to IVR, etc., to create a more holistic user experience, forgive the word. So wave three is actually where we are in accordance to Cisco on the wave of today, which is much more focused on the entire experience. So this is what we are referring to as customer collaboration nowadays from within Cisco. So not just looking at an efficient operation, not just looking at an operation that is focused on developing and sustaining customer relationships, but mainly looking at the overall experience that your customers are receiving. So if you look at those three waves and try to translate that a little bit in more detail from the operational perspective. So initially, back in those 80s, when we talked about the contact center really as a place, right? It was a physical room with tie lines to a box, and agents sitting behind those tie lines, basically that was their domain. So very operationally driven with metrics. I'm sure some of you still apply them today or even recognize them. Things like average hold time, short talk time, average handle time, etc. So lots of KPIs in place to measure the service level of your contact center. Nobody was really bothered with customer satisfaction as long as the KPIs were met and talk times were short. Then, in fact, the contact center was perfectly well operating. So, evolving to a more systems approach in the 90s, putting customer relationship more in the center, looking at a more, let's say, marketing approach of the contact center, not just as a cost center. Trying to gain more wallet share from our customers, right? So basically increasingly focused on the actual satisfaction of our customers and trying to gain and develop a relationship, more sustainable business, more customer loyalty. So topics like, lead conversion and closure rates became the new era of metrics and KPIs. Whereas nowadays, in the more mature environments that we operate in, where we look at the contact center operations really evolved from a place to a system to more an enterprise service. So in this clearly is where we believe as Cisco, the network plays a huge role in providing this capability. So where the contact center evolves to a service, of course, we're able to include any resource, any value add that your customers would be looking to receive when they contact you, include any of that resource in the customer interaction. So things like first call resolution all of a sudden become an opportunity to engage back office people, expertise in branches in banks, but also in expertise with your ecosystem partners, your value chain partners. So really looking at a service rather than a system or even a box. So things like Net Promoter Score, first contact resolution are themes here. So we saw earlier today in the presentations that not all of you have these high on your wish list here in the region yet today, but we definitely believe that topics like Net Promoter Score and wallet share and first contact resolution are the themes to really differentiate your service as we evolve the contact center operation. Of course, all that innovation that we are talking about should never go at the expense of a good return on investment. So we understand that innovation is an instrument to set your service level apart, to differentiate yourselves in the market, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't have a good ROI. So that ROI actually has been leading throughout all of these waves as the contact center evolves. So those waves, they are actually continuous. What that means is the wave that we have started off with in the contact center branch, looking at ACDs as a place, focusing on initial, basic routing, queuing, bit of interactive voice response in the early days. That wave is still continuous because still today there's much innovation going on in this industry to continue to improve cost and efficiency. Things like virtualization and analytics are still very powerful instruments today to even further optimize that cost. I think the speaker next or after me will talk about biometrics and voice analytics as yet another instrument to further optimize cost and efficiency gains. So that wave is actually still ongoing today. The wave that we've seen arise more in the 90s, focusing on the relationship, of course, was introduced by customer relationship management tools, so CRM tools, and the integration to that, more focused on giving the customer a more uniform experience, if you like, across IVR, intelligent handover to the contact center agent, screen pop, all those capabilities that I'm sure you recognize, more focused on customer satisfaction and still contributing to efficiency gains. But also in that area of relationship, we still see continuous evolution in towards the market today. So also analytics, but then integrated with the big data that we spoke about earlier today and the new channels. They are absolutely still evolving, I should say, that relationship wave. So the experience wave, as we like to call it, so this is actually an evolution that's taking place in the last few years. Started off with the need to deal with, often defensively deal with social media interaction. We've already heard a few topics about this in the speeches earlier today. So the need to deal with social media interaction, but also video as a topic, but more importantly, proactive contact. So clearly the contact center historically is a reactive environment, dealing with voice, dealing with email, dealing with the channels that hit you. But clearly with a more experience-focused contact center operation, having a proactive mechanism out to the market is a vital instrument in there. So we're going to look a little bit at how those things tie together from a technology perspective. So some of you will recognize the term ACD, Automatic Call Distributor, really the big iron appliance that we started off with in the 80s. So really a single box, very robust, very powerful box. It had its boundaries because it was a box, so it needed cards to deal with additional capacity. But it was absolutely very reliable, and it did exactly what it needed to do, deal with inbound voice traffic. So as we evolve towards a more relationship-orientated architecture, this is where the term CTI comes into play, right? So making sure there's a more intelligent handoff from your telephony system to your application side, gathering all of the IVR information in the process and in the work stream of the agent, and clearly adding multiple channels is part of that distributed architecture. But instead of having a true holistic approach, what you typically see in this distributed architecture is that when channels are added, they are added as another silo, right? When we talk about email, we talk about chat, we talk about social. So it's not a truly holistic environment looking at universal queuing or blending at the agent desktop. So as we move in the era of experience, so really looking at the end-to-end experience of your customers, so this is where we see an opportunity for customer collaboration really as a service in your network, an enterprise service. So not a box, not a system, but simply an application service in your network that you are able to leverage across your entire enterprise, so that your contact center operation, in fact, is no longer restrained by the boundaries of technology. Clearly, the customers that we have using this capability today still often choose to have a front office contact center, but not because it is a technology necessity, it's because it helps them to optimize the customer contact by having a generalist front office, right? So applying an enterprise service in the network across the enterprise really enables the agent to be more of sort of a gateway towards expertise throughout your company, making sure that we have real-time awareness of capabilities in your back office. Doesn't mean that every employee is going to be an agent, but definitely available for the process of customer interaction as and when the customer requirement dictates this. So instead of a front office taking a note, creating workflow, and following up at some later stage with a customer, this architecture, this business architecture, actually allows our customers to have a single first contact resolution as it opens up the expertise needed to deal with that. And this is important because we talked about the millennials earlier today, and I even heard Vincent talk about his children. But I don't think it's that far out. So I believe he mentioned his kids were 7. I'm not sure if Vincent here, but so I think there's a generation absolutely that is much older than that, which is getting used to a much higher level of customer service, regardless of the channel they choose to select to get in touch with you. So there's that, let's say, more unpredictable channel that they will choose. But the other development is that customers will, they will source the crowd, they will go online, they will Google or whatever to try and find their answer before they go through the burden, often, of contacting your contact centers. So what that means is that the stage at which that customer decides to contact you is also much more unpredictable, right? They may have already done a lot of homework. They may be very brand new to the topic at hand. So the channels become unpredictable, and the maturity level and the stage in which the customer is at when they contact you is also becoming more unpredictable. And clearly, there's the whole opportunity of social media and I'm sure some of you see it as a challenge, but it's also an opportunity to respond to that and optimize your service levels as well. So, just swiftly going through how we see that in what we call customer collaboration. There's really a number of elements. So first of all, there's still the concept of virtualization, right? So not just virtualization of your resources across your locations. I consider that a given, even starting back in the 80s on the systems approach. But really virtualization of server capabilities, virtualization of desktop capabilities, really leveraging much better the investment in hardware capabilities and make it more scalably available for your contact center. So whereas back in the 90s we may have required a dozen Intel servers to put a contact center together, that's now significantly condensed to maybe a single box or dual for redundancy. So virtualization is a great ongoing trend for contributing to this first wave of cost optimization. Visual is clearly a trend, inserting video. We'll have a couple of examples on this, inserting video into your operations. In the early stages, I'm sure, in this part of the world, retailers in Western Europe definitely are taking advantage of that opportunity. And there's a couple of aspects to that which we'll look into. Clearly social, as I mentioned earlier, I'm sure all of your marketing departments are keeping a close eye out for what is being said about your brand. The question is, are you taking advantage of spotted opportunities in that process? So tearing down the walls between marketing and the contact center is absolutely a worthwhile initiative to consider. And this is where the Cisco solution, Cisco Social Miner, was introduced 3 years ago to address this topic. Earlier today, during the press conference, we talked already a little bit about the authentication of voice-enabled customers, and how do you, as a bank, ensure that the one who claims is a certain customer is actually that one. Well, we also see a great role for smartphones and integration to smartphones, that as most of retailers at this point in time, banks, but also other enterprises, will have their go-to app available on either the iPhone or the Android phone. So clearly there's an authentication opportunity there during registration, but also during use. So why not take all of that data and leverage that when there is a contact need with your customer care operation, and basically remove that burden of having to re-authenticate your customers. So we see that as a great trend, and many customers working on that today. As they quickly evolve applications, it needs an agile, let's say, architecture to deal with that and interact with the contact center as well. So I'm going to swiftly go through some of these as I've been given the nod. But so first of all, your customers are not just becoming more mobile with smartphones and devices with access everywhere, but also equally important, the workforce is playing a role in that mobilization as well. So clearly we still have coal factories today, and everybody's expected to be at their desk, but to a higher degree, agents, but also supervisors are being equipped with mobile devices and basically given the opportunity to take calls, anywhere, even from home or in remote places, based on mobile devices. But we talked a little bit about social in a little while. So where traditionally a lot of you and your companies are looking from a marketing perspective at your brand, you're trying to manage your brand, there's a clear opportunity for spotting leads, but also spotting complaints, before they go viral out there on the social networks. I'm sure you've all heard pretty good examples on how a complaint can go really viral, really fast, and do a lot of damage, as we spoke about this morning. So detecting that and picking that up early and dealing with it could give you actually the opposite benefit, because as quickly as a complaint can get viral, as quickly an impressed customer can get viral as well. So there's a lot of upside to be made in proactively dealing with social media as well. So just quickly skipping over some of this in the interest of time. So if we look at customer collaboration in the sense that Cisco's putting it out to market now, and we deliberately call it customer collaboration and not contact center. So there's nothing wrong with the term contact center other than the word center. We believe the value for our customers and for your customers in getting what they need could sit anywhere in your enterprise. And of course, your contact center plays a huge role as the gateway, as the ambassador, as the orchestrator of that customer contact. But they shouldn't be the boundary of that contact. So this is where customer collaboration actually takes all those traditional tools that you are used to from vendors in this industry. So basically intelligent virtual contact center routing, reporting, multi-channel CRM and speech self-service, clearly integration with telephony based on UC, Cisco or other brands across the enterprise. But adding to that what we think is the power of the future. So this is where topics like video-enabled customer care play a role. So on the same business architecture, introduce social media customer care. So not just looking at your brand, but also ensuring you follow it up with your contact center agents when your service levels permit that. Clearly, a future-proof Web 2.0 desktop enables a lot of the CTI requirements that I know play a role in this market. So being really agile instead of many man-months worth of custom development in doing CTI, base this on Web 2.0 technologies with gadgets. So our latest CRM connectors are basically all Web 2.0 gadgets that you introduce in your browser. And then equally important, so multimedia capture and storage. So instead of taking a vertical architecture approach to recording and analytics, why not introduce that as a service in your network across your whole company? Basically give you the opportunity with Cisco MediaSense to record voice and screen capture and video in your central data center. Tag it with the required meta tag so you can later track it for basic compliance record and playback, but also for voice analytics, for quality optimization, etc., etc. So actually a quite fundamental breakthrough in the traditionally very closed architecture in this market. So clearly what we think is customer collaboration allows you not just to increase productivity, simply because dealing with all of the channels in a single architecture, but also giving you the opportunity to leverage expertise throughout your enterprise, clearly based on your processes, based on your business rules, but provide that productivity enhancement and clearly innovate with new business models, new working models. So it's no longer the technology that dictates, but it's the technology that enables. So the challenge is now trying to optimize those processes and accommodate for this innovation. So in the interest of time, I just want to show you a number of the leading brands that have put their trust in Cisco for running their entire customer care operation. So over 15,000 enterprises have done that to date, over 2 million agents using this technology on a daily basis. And this is based across small, medium business, enterprise business, as well as service provider business. So it's a wide range of portfolio in this space. So, and what we actually have still today in our portfolio, although we see customers at different maturity levels in the cycles, in the different waves, so we actually have a portfolio of solutions that allows you to address still today the cost and efficiency wave simply with virtualization, across sites, but also across equipment, basic trunking to save cost, reporting and analytics. But also for those of you in the wave of establishing a more holistic, if you like, customer relationship, more intelligent routing, multi-channel capabilities, and more proactive analytics, cradle-to-grave reporting across the whole enterprise, but also products, and you see them on the right bottom corner, to help you evolve from that relationship to a whole customer experience. So including social, including video, including visitors to your branch as just another channel into your contact center. Why not? So a holistic experience across the whole enterprise. So this is basically how we think Cisco can help you navigate these market changes and add value. So what I'd like to invite you for is to visit us either in the sessions this afternoon or in the dedicated track tomorrow, where we'll be doing dedicated sessions on the Cisco solutions and providing demonstrations as well. And of course, we'll be around for questions. So thank you for your time.